Hey everyone, welcome back to I Would Like to Have a Conversation. Ruby, say hello.
Hello.
Theo, say hello.
Hello.
And we're back with episode 13 today, and we're back with Todd, which is exciting. Theo looks very excited by something. What's wrong?
We've been with him for a long
13 weeks we've been doing this, which is pretty cool, isn't it? So in this episode, we talk about, what do we talk about? I'm going to look down on the list. We talk about traffic lights and how we use traffic lights to show up every day. So if you're a red light, what do you do? If you're a yellow light or amber, what do you do? Or if you're a green light, what do you do as a busy parent? And it's how you can have like a flexible approach to showing up and doing this health and fitness stuff, whatever it is you're trying to work on. Use the traffic lights to try and make it fit to your life. That sounds pretty cool, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, you want to say goodbye?
Bye.
Bye. Hey everybody, welcome back to I would like to have another conversation.
Yes.
I would like to have a conversation. I'm back on with Todd, and I think we're up to 8 with us doing it together. But I think this will actually be when it lands. Episode 12. So I got past the 10 barrier. Yeah.
Let's go.
And then today, we're kind of leading off what we talked about last time, I believe. Oh no, it landed this week, which was that 5-minute rule. We kind of talked about the traffic lights in that. But Todd actually messaged me this morning when I was waking up, getting the coffee ready. And he's like, let's talk about traffic lights. I was like, yes, that's perfect, because I am actually kind of getting sick. Ruby's been sick for a couple of days. We're about to have an 80th party at our house, which is going to be hectic. And there's a lot of life changes going on where I'm finishing up a part-time job I had to get me out of the house. That finishes this week. So it's the end of the financial year. So people are doing their tax returns in Australia. So the holidays are about to kick in. Like holidays start for us next week. And anyone who's got kids knows that. Holidays with kids is a totally different animal to what it was before. So everyone's kind of playing around in a high stress scenario, so to speak. And Todd's just recently kicked off coaching a bunch of people as well in a challenge. And I'm still coaching the dads as well. And I'm kind of seeing a trend where people are trending towards this stressful state. And I used to fall in this trap a lot. And what happens is most people just fall into this a bit of like the all or nothing mentality. Like if I can't do the perfect thing, I'm just not going to do anything at all. So we want to talk about traffic lights. And I'm going to preface this with saying that I didn't come up with the idea. Like every good idea, I find it from someone else. So Dan and John talked about traffic lights originally with Coach Steve-O. And Coach Steve-O was the guy who taught me habit building and skill acquisition and stuff, and how to help clients want to build the habits themselves. So it's like intrinsic motivation. And then Josh Hillis. So you can go check all these guys out. They've all got books related to habit behavior and stuff like that. And then Josh Hillis helped me create an infographic way back in the day before Josh Hillis became very, very famous Josh Hillis, where it was how to categorize the traffic lights and who falls into what zone and what kind of mindset to have to show up and where people go wrong and things like that. So I'm kind of just leaning off those much smarter minds, let's say that, because of their ideas. But yeah, let's let it rip.
Yeah.
Traffic lights.
What triggered it for me this week and why it was so prevalent in my mind was I have a client who had been years and years of fad and fad programs, yo-yo dieting. And so when she signed up, we spent about 3 months, close to 4 months, like just trying to rebuild like basic habits, routines, keeping her at maintenance because like her food was just all over the place. So just trying to get some consistency with what she ate, because every time, and the reason why we stayed there for so long is because every time I tried to dip her into a deficit, even a very minimal one, her biofeedback went crazy. And I want to establish all this because something happened. We were getting like we were finally getting like results. Okay. Like even though she was feeling better,
I like how you did that. Results.
well, because we were getting results in regards to the scale. Okay.
Yeah, I get you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just clarify for everybody listening. And so we were seeing this trend go down, and like she was just on top of the world. And then she like went on vacation, and but there's a lot more to this situation. Like over the course of the 2 weeks that she went on vacation, we just touched base, but we didn't get on calls. Like her and her husband like finally came to a decision. They're older, but finally came to a decision to sell their restaurant. And it's something that she's wanted for a long time, but it's something that her husband like wanted to hold on to and has been holding on to, for a lot longer than what she feels he needed to. It's his baby, right? And so the past 2 calls since coming back has been reestablishing like her mindset around all this. And I brought the traffic light analogy out to help her realize, hey, you're going through some stuff. And as you're going through this, what are these, and we've spoken about anchors in the past, but what are some anchors that you can continue to do in order for you to just not just necessarily make it through this time period, but like not feel like you're going to fall, feel like you're going to spiral, and completely put your health and everything that you've been working for and want ultimately what you want on the back burner because of things that are popping up in your life. And I'll share something that she said that was really, really amazing. So she had shared with me, well, I just realized that I'm just eating like more sugar and sweets and things like that. And, it's important for people to be honest with themselves. And I was like, well, why do you think that is? It's not just out of habit. Like, why do you think that is? And she's like, well, the stress. And I was like, yeah, like that could be triggering it. And before I said anything else, she was like, I've been thinking a lot about this. And I told myself, the restaurant, it doesn't matter how like quickly we sell the restaurant, like the way that I eat and what I eat isn't going to magically like make the restaurant like, and she had that realization. And I said, listen, like you're crushing it. If I've been able to convey anything is, have those hard conversations with yourself. And I said, only you can answer it. But I was like, if you're having this conversation and then consciously choosing the sweets all the time, I was like, that's a different story. Like now you're just deliberately doing something against, that fights against what you want. But ultimately she just had that, like, she just needed to speak it out. And it's really cool to kind of verbalize these analogies for people so I can help her understand, okay, life isn't that bad right now. You are going through a lot, but what can we anchor to in order to keep you in the yellow? And if you do dip into the red for something that does happen, we can still have anchors to make sure you don't feel like you've gotten completely off track. So that's what brought it, that's what was really, really made me think of it and wanted to talk about it. And I don't know if you had any experience on your own, or you want to elaborate on that, but I was able to use the whole analogy to help her. She kind of just like took a deep breath after I explained it to her, and she was like, okay, yeah. Like, I'm normally in the yellow. I may be dipping in the red with some stressful things going on in my life. And we just made a plan, and for this week and over the course of the next week, we're not changing everything. We're just focusing on protein. And she felt like that was something that she could accomplish. She didn't feel like she was stretching herself. And that's what was beautiful about like using these tools and analogies to help people just reframe a lot of things in their mind. Because I tend to see people catastrophize their life. And that can be a big, that can really be a big problem. So.
Yes. It's kind of, so I use like the analogy of like red light as, and we create something that can be done on their worst day as a safety net. So it's like, if this catches you, now I feel like I'm going to do this whole call. If this catches you, you're still going to get the goal. So this is a big reason why I lent into the last time we talked about this. We were talking about calorie tracking and rules based, or like whole foods, all that sort of stuff. Which way is the best way? And I'm like, yeah, they're both kind of cool. I like them both, but I lean into the idea of what I do when I'm in red. So I'm yellow, touching on red because I'm getting sick. Job change. So the job change is like a wild card, and wild cards is from the idea of that fair play card game, where it's like there's a baby coming into the house, a job change, divorce, accountants at tax time, when they just get smashed, the kids are sick, like COVID, when all that kind of stuff happens. So that's when you fall into the red. And I'm like teetering on there. And the way I kind of look at it, and like what she said, where she's like, I'm just eating more sweets and stuff, I do too. Like when I get really, really stressed, I start leaning towards wanting to have ice cream and chocolate. And I know they're triggers for me, but when I'm really in a red, I'm like, I don't really fight it that hard. I'm like, I'm going to go have it. But I use the idea of the safety net to allow it while still getting results. So it gives you that buffer to fit it in. It's not optimal. I probably should be having soups and stuff because I feel like I'm catching a cold. But I kind of like lean into the idea of like, especially with parents, where do you want to put the challenge when you fall into a red light? So what, in the sense of what we try and do with people, where it's like losing weight, transforming their lives, whatever their goals are. But if you fall into a red light, you're meant to be like, it's meant to be very, very stressful. It's very hard to show up for extracurricular stuff. So you fall back to baseline habits. You can do the optimal thing and it'll probably work really well. But I see red as like you need to put the challenge in the right area. And for parents, the challenging part might be to be a parent when you're getting really, really sick, or you're going through a job change and all that kind of stuff. But there's all this really high level stress going on, moving house. You want to have the capacity in parent life where you don't lose your lid with your kids. I was actually talking to this dad the other day. Like, where in the day is he losing his lid at the moment? Okay, let's try and make that part of the day easier and create some pause moments in there. But I kind of see we should go through the different zones, but let's say we'll go through red and then we'll go through yellow and we go through green. Like red is like the hardest of the hard. A lot of people do say like, I'm in a red zone. And it's like, what happened? Oh, it was a full moon and didn't have a good sleep. Nah, it's not really a red zone. I get it. Like you cooked, but it's not red. Red is like kids are in hospital, all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's really, really bad. You just crashed your car. So it's like, that's where you do go back to that 5-minute rule we shared, where it's just something you can do to prove to yourself that you can still show up as the person you want to be. And it's in those moments, I believe, where you do just enough to show up when it's really, really hard. You start rewiring your brain and telling the story that you are this new person you want to be. And like, this is like fully legit. Everyone does it. I've done it before, where you hit a red light zone, and you just fall off the wagon completely. Like, everyone's done it at some stage. It doesn't have to be fitness and health. It could be anything. Like, I let business stuff drop, which I know I should do when I'm in a red zone. I just let it go. And then what I've started trying to do is I literally do this in every part of my life, is like traffic light zone, all the things I need to do so I can keep showing up and gaining momentum, knowing that like a red or a yellow light's just around the corner. So if we look at like Tarantino, you can tell I'm sick, my brain's all over the place. The idea of the red zone is the worst of the worst. Think like your worst case scenario, that's your red zone. And then yellow, I believe this is where all parents live. And yellow is like a big range. So if we had like a graph, it'd be like red would be down here, very, very high stress. Yellow is like this huge area. Like, it's massive. I used to have a scoring system for it because people were really hard. Like, they struggled to figure out how to do it. So they scored their sleep, movement, energy, mood, all that kind of stuff out of 5 for each one. And then he just gave a score. And they were able to see where they were. And I was like, cool, you're a yellow. But like the yellow zone is huge. Like you're going to have stress and you're going to just have day-to-day survival. And then you're just going to have day-to-day where you're doing pretty well. It's just normal stuff. Like kids on holidays. That's more like a yellow.
And I think real quick before you go into green, one of the things that came across my mind was I had some resistance to this at first because I was like, man, our mind wants like to achieve the green. Right?
Oh yeah.
And it took me some time to like completely accept the analogy in its entirety, because when the way I want to preface this before you get into the green, because when you do describe the green, I think it'll hit people harder to once you really describe what that green is, so they can accept that there's nothing wrong with yellow. But I guess what I'm suggesting is the sooner they accept that we are all dealing with this, very, wide spectrum of yellow, that there is this level of acceptance to your life, that we're going to be dealing with this, and I'm accepting that, and that's cool. And how you, and we'll talk about this later, but how you show up and deal with those things is another thing. So I think, just if anybody has any kind of resistance to what you're describing, that when you describe the green, they'll have a better understanding of why it's okay to be accepting in the yellow, and that we're not trying to be the number one superhero here. So
it's kind of interesting you said that, because I shared on X, Twitter, whatever one wants to call it, the concept when we talked about it last time, the traffic lights, and I did a reel for it and shared it on Twitter. And this guy I chat with, say like we're ex friends, and he's a good dude. He's just going through some stuff. He said something which I was like, this could be like what a lot of people do. He's like, I'm trying to optimize everything to be green all the time. And I see that happen a lot, especially with the entrepreneurs who want to be really, really good at what they do. They want to show up as their best selves all the time. And I used to try and do it as well. I was like, I'm going to make the green work. And when you can't, it puts so much stress on you, but also on your family, where this is what I believe, you subconsciously blame external situations because they're knocking you out of your green zone. When I don't like to use the idea of the traffic lights as a goal. Like I want my goals to be in green all the time. I don't think that's a good way to look at it. It's more to sort of assess what's happening. And then let's say you got your program. Boom, here's your program. The way I like to do it is like get a pen, and it's like, cool, if I'm red, I'm going to do this part. And if I'm yellow, I'll be able to add that on top. And then if I'm green, I'll do it all. The goal is to show up every day. And the traffic light zones, it's just to make it easier to show up. It's not to make you feel bad. It's to allow flexibility so you don't have unrealistic expectations. It's more of like a reasonable approach. And it was interesting because when the way he said it, I was going to just go into a massive, not rant, but just talk to him about it. And I was like, it's not the right time. And it's on social media in the public. It's probably never the right time. So the way, like, that kind of pressure, I could even see it in the way he wrote it, of like, I'm optimizing for a green. And I would say, from what I see from him, he's a red. And there'd be so many ways that he could count wins and get proof that he's showing up when life is really shit. That'll make him feel good. But once you have this idea of like, I have to be a green, you constantly feel like you're falling short.
Yeah.
Which is super unmotivating. Which is why, like, when I talk to lots of people I coach, I'm like, how much do you reckon you can give me in the next week? Well, you're 90% confident you can do time-wise, and they'll say whatever it is, and I just divide it by 2. I can give you 15 minutes. I'm like, cool, give me 7. And then I can give you 5. I'm like, cool, give me 1. I'm like, I just want the win. As long as we get the win, we can scale. And this is the other thing. Like, we'll go into the green. I'll quickly. Green's easy. Green's the magical kingdom. Really, you have no stress. You don't have to worry about food. Food's cooked for you. You got like a massage person walking around with you, giving you massages when you need it. It's like the utopia. I'm joking. It's not really like you can be green without all that. But I sort of see it as like green is no stress. Life is awesome. You're rocking it in your work. You're paying off your bills. You got no debt, no stress, nothing at all. Everything is just literally hunky dory. You will get it, and it'll be it's like sporadic. Dan John used to say it'd be like a 2-week time in the year, and he said this for athletes. So these are athletes who get paid to train and sit around and play PlayStation games. So they technically will have more green than anyone else. But he's like, they'll only have it for 2 weeks of the year. And I kind of think with the parents, it's like a day. You might have a day where everything's awesome, and you'll have a green day. But the next day, something might happen, and you'll fall back in the yellow. But you're just clocking wins. And when there is time, when it becomes a green light and you got the capacity to do more, you can choose to do more or spend time elsewhere. Like, you get to choose because you know you're getting results regardless. So it becomes a choice thing. You can do more, which is what I tend to do a little bit. If I have a green day, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go do more. I'll go down and do another session, or I'll come down here and record a video because I feel really good and just sort of lean into it. But I don't rely on it to get me to move. It's kind of like, it's like a percentage, like it's a small percentage better. If you do the red light and the yellow, that's a huge percentage. That's probably like 80% of the time, more than that, 85%, 90%, doesn't matter, any random number. And then the green is like that last little bit. Now I lost the train of thought I was going to have before that.
You were speaking about the gentleman in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the way I reckon we should look at traffic lights, this is the way I try and teach it to parents. It's not like a get out clause of doing challenging things. We still have to have challenge. And I believe challenge is a positive frame. Hard and annoying, that's different. Like if it's hard and annoying, you just really hate that thing. Like say strength training. If you're like, you just really hate strength training. Like it's just deep in your soul. You have this hatred for it, which is train driver guy that I coach, Stu. He has a real deep hatred for it. So I just don't force him to do it. I'm like, let's just go do something else. Go climb the stairs with a backpack. So there's like, that's his challenge and he enjoys that. The other part, not so much. So we're looking for a challenge where it's pushing your comfort zone a little bit. But what happens over time when you start getting really good at this is at first your red light might be really small. Let's say the movement habits, 5-minute movement stack. And that's your red light. Over time, as you collect more wins, you get better and better at it. That 5 minutes becomes 10 minutes, and that's your new red light. Like that expands over time. Because we talked about this with the 5-minute rule. So like my red light training is more like 20 to 30 minutes. But when I get sick, I go back to 5 and build it back up. So I'm feeling like I'm getting sick. So I'm actually dropping my training volume down to allow that capacity for me to heal, get better, whatever. But so what ends up happening is you set like this plan of like, cool, this is my red light. If I'm a yellow, I'll do this on top of that. If I'm a green, I'll do this on top of that. Eventually that green light might come back into the yellow and you can do so much more in that zone because you're showing up for it and creating space for it. And then you stack something else on the green and that becomes like the new thing. So this is where I changed it from traffic lights to mini pro elite because people got stuck. Like I love the traffic light zones, but people see red as in stop. And I call it yellow, it's amber, but we know what we're talking about. And then they see green as the only thing that means results. Like green means go. That's the only thing that gets results. So I had to figure out a different way of saying it. I'm just going to turn off notifications I'm getting pinged on. Mini, Pro, Elite from Elastic Habits books change the conversation. So it's like a mini win. This guarantees the goal. However long it takes to get there, this is going to guarantee the goal. This is like what you were saying before the call. Like, here's our 5-year plan. And like, now let's show you how we can compact time and get the results quicker. So it's like the mini should always achieve the goal if you just show up enough for it. And then, so that's your red light. And then yellow, I changed to Pro. And dads love this idea. It's like, if you show up in normal stress time, you're a professional. Yeah. And I leaned into like Stephen Pressfield's book, The Amateur versus the Pro. And I used that a lot with teaching it. Like, the amateur, sounds bad, the amateur flakes when things get a little bit challenging. The amateur shies away. The amateur lets resistance talk him out of doing stuff. And the pro shows up. The pro does just enough to get the job done when times are hard. The pro stretches himself when he needs to. So that's like, so we've got mini, pro, and then the green light is elite. And I was always about the idea of like, it made it really cool to categorize where like you can shoot for elite. And it's really cool. Give yourself a mad celebration for that, but you still got to come back for at least a mini tomorrow. It's about the unbroken chain of days that makes it work. And if you're hitting an elite more than 2 times in a week, it's not elite. That's a pro. Change it. So I used to use it as like a way to categorize it because everyone, which is good, setting benchmarks like 45 minutes in the gym, that's my elite. And they hit it 3 times a week. I'm like, cool. So that's now your pro. You got to hit it 3 times in a week to get a pro win. Your elite now is an hour and a half. So it's kind of like red light, mini, make it really, really easy. So easy. Like, it's like, think of like the first time everyone got COVID when you just felt like absolute trash. Like, can you do it in that day? That's what I use as my analogy. Eventually we might stop talking about it, but it's work still.
I couldn't do anything in my
days. I was cooked. And then it's tangent side story. The first time I got COVID, I think it was 2 weeks later, I had to go run a Spartan race. And I trained up for it, felt really good, got COVID. This happened like 3 Spartan races in a row. This happened. And then went to the race, and my whole plan was like stick to this heart rate zone for 10 hours. And my heart rate was like, 180 straight away. Start line, everyone starts running 180. So I was just literally living in the red the whole race. And it was funny, not funny at the time, but the symptoms went away, but my heart rate was still high. Did the race, my symptoms come back straight after the race, and it knocked me out again for like another 2 weeks because I just stressed the body so much.
Yeah.
Weird tangent. But yeah, like, what can you do in the red zone or the mini? Your mini is so easy to do. This is where I like 5 minutes. Show me what you ate. Usually if you are really sick, you're not going to eat much anyway, but track it. And do a 5-minute walk. It's just stuff like that, just little things. And then pro, build on top of it. What can you stack on top that you can do generally most of the time? Which is where you want to live. You want to live in that window, the pro window. The red light is just your safety net. The mini version is just like if shit gets really hard, you can fall back to that. So live in the pro and then stretch for the elite. That, especially for the dads, they loved it. So much better than the traffic lights. I still kind of use it. Like, I got a graph where it's like red lights, how we show up for them. And then with conversations like, cool, now what are we going to put in those categories? What are we putting in those sections? What can you show up for? And they love the challenge of trying to find an elite day and pushing themselves, but knowing that I would call them out if they did it and then they disappeared for a day or two afterwards, which is a lot of what we see. It's like people go for those green light days or green light programs or the all or nothing mentality, basically. And they can do it and it's a success. And then nothing else happens for the rest of the week. And this is where I got a little bit disenchanted with like in-person coaching when I had my gyms. People would come in and do a green light workout and then do nothing for the rest of the week. And those big hits, 1 to 2 or even 3 times a week, you're still less than 50% successful for the week.
Right. And
So,
I think,
yeah, you go.
and I think you were hinting on something towards like the programs in general. I mean, listen, I've been guilty of it in regards to, you know, like encouraging / allowing people to change their food, change their workouts, all that, because everything felt good. But as soon as life, you know, and they were still in the yellow, but as soon as life gave them something, and that's the reason why I always go back to the like catastrophizing, is because is that like something in their life will happen that throws them, you know, for a loop. And that's like, so most of it has been like, all right, how do we rebuild, you know, with all of these concepts. And so, but being mindful of like, yeah, if you are, and I think what's really important too is having a conversation with yourself and with the coach that you sign up with about what that looks like. And just understand that like, if you want these results, it's going to require this type of effort, and it's going to, if you want them soon enough and safe enough, then it's going to, and just being really, really honest about that. But you know, if you know, and I had someone recently sign up that like, hey, we wanted to do this slowly and you know, confidently, and learn these things as we go, not just be shoved into a program where you're being told what to do, but you're learning the tools as you go. And that's really cool. And I set that up from the very beginning. And I think that there were times when I was signing other people up that conversation, I had recognized that I needed to put that conversation in, because I think people have some interesting expectations when it comes to weight loss, especially with, and I think you and I are on the same page, but when there's kind of certain marketing tactics out there, you know, like maybe you have one person in your program that gets this phenomenal results, and then that's what you use for your marketing because you have one person who showed this result, and then, you know, somebody gets baited with that and they're not in the same situation, and making sure that you can have an honest conversation with that person about that. But if that was a tangent, I apologize. But it circles back around. If it circles back around to you know, like this is the best way that you and I have both seen to help build somebody into a sustainable life. And I haven't seen anything else that, and I'm sure there are other things, but I haven't really seen anything else that allows for people to, you know, see, create this image in their mind around what it is that they're trying to achieve and the reality of it. Because I think, you know, for so many years, and if we even want to reference COVID, but during the COVID years, you know, there are coaches that got away with a lot of interesting things. So, yeah, so
it's kind of, yeah. So I think if you're going to do this yourself at home now, let's use some tools to sort of help you set up what it is that you want to do in a way where it's really hard for you to get derailed. That's the main thing. It's going to make you anti-fragile, which is the main thing around the traffic light zones and the mini pro elite thing. So if you're setting a goal, you want this thing. Easy low hanging fruit. You want to lose weight. It's like, cool. What is the red light version of you getting to that goal? What is the minimal amount of work you could do to get there and stretch the timeline? It's like, if I do this enough, this will get me there in 3 years' time. This sounds ridiculous because like, I want it tomorrow. Like, I get it, but let's set the minimum, like 3 years' time. So if you know you're going to show up in this red light zone and do this one thing, you're going to get there. You just got to keep doing it. And the goal will happen just because you're being the person you need to be. So you set your red light version around that. So you have really good expectations, and it almost feels so easy, it feels stupid. Like for me, like last year when I just said, I'm throwing everything out the window. I'm just going to use this app, Macro Factor. I'm going to let it tell me what to do. I don't care. I'm going to spend 5 minutes a day and put stuff in there. I generally already eat enough protein. I eat 80% well all the time anyway. So it's kind of easy, low hanging fruit for me. So I just gave it what I needed, and then let me lose 12 kilos in the year. And it was such an easy process. It felt like it was too easy. And that's what you kind of want for your red lights. So you can do it when shit's really hard.
And just to be clear, Chris, for everybody listening, the thousands of listeners that what Chris is saying is that he essentially set a caloric target and just focused on hitting that caloric target. So there are a few online things that we trust in regards to giving you something that isn't going to put you into like a massive deficit. Yes. So if you want access to that or the link or something, just reach out. But just to be clear, all he did was set a target for himself, and then just focused on hitting that target. Didn't matter what he ate, although he's clarifying that eating clean for him is not that much of an issue. But what I think underneath we're getting at as well, when you look at the science of weight loss, if your red light actionable step is, again, it may seem so simple, is just hitting a target, expand the timeline, like he said, and show up and just hit that target. And all Chris did was literally just punch in what he ate to make sure that he hit that target. And that was his baseline. So I just wanted to clarify that before we move forward.
And I guess too, like in that, like letting go of the expectation of what that looks like. So using, again, I'll use MacroFactor. I'll put the link in there. It's a paid service. It has a algorithm that takes your daily weigh-ins and the daily food amounts and just changes the amount you can eat based on what's going on in your life. So it calculates how much more you're moving or less, and the targets change every week. So I just did whatever it told me. And it was cool to see like the amount of food I could eat increase over time. By the end of the year, I was eating way more food than when I started. The other side of the coin of that is like, I am not anal with my tracking. I am 100% not weighing my food. I'm not doing any of that noise. I just get the closest thing possible to what I can see and use that. And after a while, you'll get ideas on it. But as long as you're consistent with that idea, like your version of tracking, whatever that is, it's basically your version of awareness. It doesn't have to be calorie tracking. Your version of awareness. If you're shit, be consistently shit at it. So the data is consistent, and then these kind of apps can work. If like 1 week you're weighing and measuring everything, and then the next week you eyeball it, that's going to just throw everything out the window. So just pick one way of doing it. Mine is just eyeballing it, and from memory, 5 minutes a day. So I forget things, doesn't matter. It's just consistent. So to give you an idea, like I'm a 88 kilo dude, and it's telling me I need to eat 2,500 calories. When with the amount of training I do, it'd probably be around 3,000, 3,500. That's just that I'm shit at tracking. So I just roll with it. And because I feel good energy-wise, it's not like I'm in a massive deficit. So anyway, there's markers and things you put in place to make sure you're not going too big a hole. But you want to set your red light as, so easy you can do on your worst day that's going to get the goal. If you set something like, it's challenging because this will work, but it could be something like, I'm going to have 4 cups of salad every day as my red light. I think when you get really, really stressed out, it could be really, really hard. So you want to make sure that your red light is guaranteed to be done in whatever environment you're in. So if you look at that movement, my red light is push up, lunge, pull up, the PLP program. I'll link it. It's on T Nation. I've tweaked it for dads. It's called the 30-day program. But I do that on red light days. I just do 1 push up, 1 lunge, 1 pull up, and just repeat that for however long I feel like, usually 5 minutes. I just cycle through it. It's kind of like a tonic. I don't push really hard. I rest a lot. But it just ticks things over. But I can do that anyway. If I can't do a pull up, I'll just hang from a tree, a soccer goal. I'll just skip the pull up and do the push up and the lunges. But something in the red light that you can do in any environment you're in. The environment has a lot to do with getting success. So if you get that part sorted, you'll be right to go. If you're stuck on it, reach out to us. We'll give you some red light stuff. And then yellow and green, which is your pro and elite habits and skills and things you want to do is going to get that finish line closer. And that's the way to look at it. So you've set your plan based off the worst case scenario, and it's going to take 3 years to get there. If you start showing up and doing things in the yellow and being a professional, the goal line's just going to keep coming closer and closer and closer. It's not going to say like, oh, now it's a year. You just think about like every day you show up as like a professional. I mentally, this is the way I played it out. It's like, oh, cool. That's another day it's come closer. And then that's another day it's come closer. Technically it is because you just showed up for a day. So you're just moving one day ahead. But I looked at it as the other way. It's like, oh, the finish line's one day closer. And I don't look at elites at all as bringing the goal line any closer. It's your red light, your yellow light is goal achievement. Green light, it's just fun. If you look at green lights as fun and excitement, entertainment, all that kind of stuff where it's really playful. And I like to, it's when I go for a trail run for 4 hours. That's not going to make any difference, that 1 4-hour training run, to me achieving my goal in 3 years' time. It's just, I love doing it. It's something I want to do. So trail run, trail hike, whatever. But whatever you do on your green days is it stacks on top. It's not the green day instead of all the other stuff. It's you're still doing your red, you're still doing your yellow stuff. It's all stacking. And the green is just the icing on the cake. It's cool. It's fun. It's tasty. But the cake's the main thing. Icing by itself is shit.
Sometimes depends on the icing, but and I think the reason for that distinction too, right, is going back to what you had said. If you do enough of the green, they become yellow, and so making sure that you keep that distinction, that green separate, is really important, because when you get into the mindset of constantly trying to achieve the green just becomes the yellow, and anything on top of that becomes the new green. So I really love the way you explain that, because if you go for that extra trail run, or maybe just hop into CrossFit gym and do one CrossFit workout you haven't done in forever, who knows? It's that's not getting you necessarily anywhere, because it's not like a training session per se. It's not part of, like you said, the red and yellow that allows for you to show up every day. So it's beautiful, man.
And I think
I love it.
Oh, there was something I was going to say about that too. It was I lost it. Something about the green lights. It was going to be so cool. It was going to be amazing.
Yeah. I
We're
bet
just going to leave everybody on the hook. It's
and then
you're damn, this guy.
Yeah. Well, that'll be the paid version of the the podcast.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. So
there we go.
I'm 39, turning 40. What I've noticed from myself is I've had to traffic my training days. So the way I set up my training now, I started getting way better results with my training once I started doing this too, which is bizarre. I'm a coach for ages, but I love training every day. It's literally my thing. My red light is training every day, but I just changed the intensity to make sure I don't burn out. But this is what was really cool. I threw out the idea of the 7-day training window. So I was I can't fit all the things I want to do. I want to do all the things. I want to do everything. I want to be able to have a running day. I want to have a CrossFit WOD day, which is sort of conditioning based. And then I want to have a strength day. And I want to have a re-energized day, which is mobility and flexibility. I'm so that's 4 days. That's literally the whole week gone already. So I was I can't do the 7-day thing. I was tried so hard. So I was screw it. I'm just going to have the 4 days. So 1 day's the strength day. 1 day's the running day, compromise running because my legs are tired. The other day is recovery WOD day. And then the 4th day is just going for a walk, a bike ride, and doing mobility. So I have it's called 3 days, 1 day off. 3 days on, 1 day off is a training cycle. And inside those 3 training days, the strength day is all sub max. So it's a yellow. The CrossFit WOD day is a recovery session. So that's a red light. It's in the sense of training zones, it's blue. Like it's not very intense. I keep it below 180 minus my heart rate and just stay there. It's just moving through movements. And I say CrossFit WOD, I don't do anything like snatches and stuff. It's just body weights and the ski ergs and the row machine. It's just non-running related, just to build conditioning. Then the running day is technically my big day. It's usually soccer training, which is lots of sprints and high intensity, or trail running, which is the impact being the bigger guy is just hits hard. That's why I tend to do strength the day before and then go trail running, because it keeps me within my bubble and stops me from overstriding and overstretching. So I even set up my training zones like that. So I maybe hit like an elite training day once a week at the moment. But as soon as I started doing it, my body started feeling really good. I stopped having niggles. I enjoyed the training like crazy, because running, I do go running a lot, but it's not a natural thing that I would like to go do. So I know that if I do a running day, I'm like, cool, the next day is like, and I love the in the garage CrossFit conditioning sessions where I just sort of move between the bikes and everything. Yes, I'm lucky I've got all that shit here, but moving between that stuff. So even when I'm a coach, been doing this for ages, and it took me 4 years to figure out that training style where I didn't have to ram everything into the 7 days, and just went with it like, cool, I'm just going to play the traffic lights. I'm going to have a yellow day, which primes me for the green day running. And then after that, I recover with the red light day, or in this case, recovery day. And then I have a full recovery day the next day, and then I'll go again. And I feel like I could do that forever. Like I know at some stage I'll probably have to put in more recovery days in there because I'll get older again. But allowing my body that chance to adapt to whatever's going on has been a game changer for me. It allowed me to go back and play soccer and play seniors again at 40 years old, or 39 years old.
Let's go.
So I think it's like we know, but we also stuff it up too. I think that's the thing.
It happens. That's why, like, you know, and this is nothing against CrossFit, but being in the CrossFit realm and not being able to put your blinders on and understand, you know, what your process is and stuff like that can take. And that's what I recognize for me is like being in there. I wanted to just push myself and like doing some of those workouts. Like, you know, you just want to like crush it and push yourself. But I will say, and this isn't, well, I mean, I'm certified in it, but the certification that I have in regards to like the GOTA certification, that's why something that it landed for me years ago. My back and hip weren't all that great. I was, you know, doing some of these other training modalities, and then I found the GOTA and became certified as a coach. And that is something that allows for me to, like, I can still break out into a sweat. I feel unbelievable when I do this type of training. But I still get to add in days where, you know, I'm pushing a little bit of weight, you know, here and there and things that get to push it. But ultimately, you know, my main goal, and I think, you know, if I can just project what you're getting at, is like, we want to do this for a very long time. Yeah. And this goes back to the whole idea of the traffic lights and the 5-minute rule. We're just applying it to our training. We're applying it to how we understand our own bodies. And our goal is to just help people have that agency to do the same thing. You know, when people start out with us, it's they want, you know, kind of like some hand holding. They want to be told what to do. They're not even sure, you know, like, are lunges good or squats good? And it's, you know, I think some people get caught up in so many of those things, and it's like, no, just, it's more about how you feel, you know. And that's when I'm working with clients from a programming perspective, because I also do that as well. So I help people rehab out of injuries remotely, along with, you know, what I do in the clinic. But that's the biggest thing, is like, the feedback I get from these people are not videos. It's not a technical thing. I want to know what you feel. Yeah. Tell me where you feel it. Tell me how your body feels. You know, we have these check-ins on, like you said, the mood. I have even a check-in at the end of the week of like, how does your body feel overall? Because, you know, what I found too was when I was programming for people, they had this idea in their head that more is better. and every time, like in your words, another little niggle came up, another like injury, or I'd be working with them on their back, and then all of a sudden they'd be like, "Hey Todd, what more can I do for my neck?" And I'd have to say, "Wait a minute, we've got two things going on in your body. There's a bigger picture we're missing, and we need to take a step back." And that's what happens to, and just, I want to tie this all back to I guess, like our programs and the way we coach is having like a knee, hip, and neck problem is the equivalent of you kind of redlining or trying to achieve the green all the time and feeling like you fail, or, the all or nothing mentality, and that you're not able to make this a sustainable life. And there's something that keeps getting in the way. And in that analogy, it's overtraining, it's under recovering. There's a number of things, and we can just take, each person's situation, and as long as we can highlight it for them, and then over time, help them get that agency, we can, they can start getting their own feedback and making some adjustments. And maybe they still need to hire out, for certain things, and that's okay. But, I think just giving them enough, creating enough agency to help them go through a process that you do with your own training, with their own life, whether it's nutrition, whether it's, whatever it is. So was that a tangent? I wanted to kind of bring it all back. But
nah, it's good, because we went into like kind of like the high performance thing, which is what we like. It's where we play around with our training and stuff. And I think it's all relative. Like yours and my red zones will look like potentially someone else's green zone, which is cool. Doesn't matter, as long as whoever your red zone still allows you to achieve the goal. And it's just a capacity building thing. This is like, space builders. You're building that space in your life to be able to show up and do more and more and more over time, but not expecting to be there straight away. Right. So it gives you that fallback plan, and eventually that fallback plan, like mine's still a 5-minute rule. My red light, I still tend to, if I need to have a win and I feel really, really crap, or we're moving house, which we tend to love to do, and all those other super high stressful situations, I usually, just fall back to a 5-minute rule. Like even this weekend when we're having the 80th party at our house, where there's going to be tons of people here all day, cooking starts at 9 a.m. I'm just going to sneak off downstairs and do like a quick 5-minute thing just to tick the box and then come back up. I've already planned it in my calendar just so I can still win the day in my head, to collect proof I'm still showing up as the person I want to be, which is the ideal, which we can talk about in another episode, I reckon, of this avatar, this alter ego that you want to be. This is how you build out your red, yellows, and greens. You create this version of you who you want to be. What is those behaviors of that person? And then we stack them. What's the red, yellow, green versions of that? And then just the game is to get more wins on the board showing up as that person versus the one you don't want to be anymore. It sounds really simple on paper. It is really simple on paper. It's obviously challenging. I reckon the next episode we talk about that, like creating the alter ego. Well, what is the story of the person you want to be? That'd be cool. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Do your wrap up. You're good at the wrap ups. Do it.
Oh man. If you've been following along with us, I hope you hear through what we're trying to share is that, when you look at a lot of the marketing and a lot of the stuff that you see out there, some of these influencers, like I'm sure there's some good ones, there's whatever. We're just trying to reach out to people and see that, we're humans that have gone through this process, and, over time that we've collected tools that we just want to share with people and help you move forward. So, and thanks to Chris's son, this podcast and the idea for this podcast was born. And we hope that just through our conversations, you feel like you're a part of it. You feel like you can, reach out and kind of, interject. And if you want to be on, please reach out to us. We would love to hear your story. We would love to talk. And if you are cool with a hot seat, we can also help you work through something if that's something, if you feel called to. But please, like, if you do, just hit the subscribe button and give us a like, or I don't know if Sandy's still providing the feedback for you, but
actually got a
I would
video
love
I'm gonna watch.
Okay, I would love to also hear feedback. So we just thank you a lot for being a part of this. And if you think this is something that other people would enjoy, please share. If not, just please reach out and jump on. We would love to set a time aside and be able to interview you. And because the biggest thing we learn is our story matters, and it'll matter to somebody. And it can, whether you think so or not, it'll connect with somebody and help them move forward and take that next step. So,
yeah, I love that. Mic drop.
Oh.
See you guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.